Hey folks, so I was on my best behavior from Facebook for about a few months now. I did my best job in the whole entire world to keep my mouth quiet about the truth, which is different than what I believe. And a lot of times people mistake what you say with you being against everyone, but in actuality I do understand everyone. I just cannot agree to the narrative, because once you see the narrative, it's easy to say, everyone, you're believing the wrong thing. Everyone, you're not seeing the whole picture, because I have not seen the whole picture. And then I had to separate myself from the narrative in order to see the correct perspective. Like when everyone started changing the name from Native Indian to Indigenous, I hated that, because I'm like, you guys, we grew up with Native American for a long time. We started saying Native American because it was native to our mindset. And what happened was, over one stupid, not stupid, but because one person made a point that we should correctly address it, as the whole paradigm shifted, where everyone started using the terminology as indigenous. And then the Columbus Day drama, Columbus genocide, and this and that, blah, blah, blah. That all came into play. But certainly it wasn't during the time that you changed the name from Indians to Indigenous. It only happened because people boycotted Columbus Day in 2015, I think it was. So if you guys haven't been following the narrative, it's constantly always set first by social media. Facebook is the leading artificial intelligence, giving you what you need to respond to, constantly putting ads that move, kitty, move, kitty, move. Oh, there's a little cat. Constantly giving you ads to where you are constantly mad, frustrated, pissed off, angry. Facebook is it's not the place anymore where you commune and socialize with people that you've seen throughout your whole life. It's turned into a war zone, because people such as I have a role in life where, guess what? I have to maintain a public image, number one, but then that doesn't mean that I always have to, where's the light? That doesn't mean that I always have to say what everyone needs to hear. I don't have to be this person. Just because I'm a public figure does not mean, it doesn't mean that I have to act like a Catholic schoolboy and keep my mouth shut and follow, or there's no law to Facebook. I'm sorry. But a lot of people, they act this way because, that's the narrative. The narrative is, where's the light? The narrative, I'll turn on the light here. I'm in my parking spot. So the narrative is basically, if we continue to talk about allegations of assault, racism, sexism, then you constantly are keeping your ratings high if you are a television network. And each week is a different category of what can we distort and dilute into the public eye today or this week or what have you. So I look at a lot of Facebook posts, and a lot of them will be the same topic, same category of people saying, it's posting of I've been a victim of this, and rage, 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 anger, ventilation. This person should suffer because I was a victim, 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 victim. What's happening in your life cycle is you're constantly creating a cycle of aggression without release. And what happens is you release it on people who don't agree with you. And then after that, guess what? You have just burned or destroyed a bridge with intentions. So I guarantee that in 10 years, I will probably lose clients who don't agree on social media with what I say. Though I have to play not play, that's the wrong word. It's like a game of chess. I do have to choose my words appropriately because I don't want to offend people in a public environment of whence I do my job. So if you guys are part of any participation of what I do, that's your own choice of how you feel when social media is around. But in person, we all get along. So a lot of people, they fail to question, why does someone that I love so much and I get along with so well see this perspective? And automatically people will think, oh, Aaron is fake news, and Aaron is that's not true. That's not true. And a lot of people, and I hate to do this, particularly women, there's this whole thing of we go through more, we've been through a lot, and we had it harder because of our equal rights situation. Well, I'm going to play another card. When you are a African American male, when you are black, sorry, because I don't like to say African. We weren't born in Africa, so we're not African American. But when you're a black male, you're a gay male, you are a driving force of diversity in such areas that doesn't have diversity. Guess what? You can't agree with your environment. You can I think you guys kind of understand what I'm trying to say is, if I catered to the environment of where I was, I wouldn't be working where I was. Because the narrative will say this is a rich, entitled, privileged area, and there's people like you who don't walk in this environment because you're not one of them. So I have this role in life, and I unify people through what I do. Why? Because I see things differently. And just because it's through passion of dance and art and expression does not mean I have to shut up when it comes to seeing that society is trying to create your mind to only be against people who don't follow the narrative. And the narrative only wants you to feel more harassed, more offended, more insulted, and more power-fueled and more sense of entitled with your category by November. After voting season, you're going to see real situations on the news. You're going to see you're going to see a change in our news, media, entertainment, sports, etc. This is why football happens after the season that we're in now. Because it's celebration and cheering after you just done all the hard work and labor of cussing each other out, beating each other up, and voting. And like, don't you see that, you guys? Like, when you vote, you're kind of against your brother and sister. And then when you have all these football games and whatnot, and people think it's seasonally, but I think it's intentionally. Because now you have groupings and people sitting down. And you wonder why, like basketball, you don't get together and do. Some people do, but it's more festive in the wintertime when you have football. That is weird, right? You have been taught and trained to unify after a season of decisions and voting happens all the time. And you don't see it until I told you. So this is why a lot of times I have to play angel's advocate, because I see people so stuck in the dark that they do not see the light in any situation. So I have an example of yesterday. I I took my friend with me to work, and because there's certain hours that she couldn't tolerate being at my job, she took a lift home. The problem is she didn't go home. She disappeared for almost 13 hours. And she left her dog behind at home, of which I live in the same vicinity. The landlord knew that I left with her and I was due to bring her back home. Long story short, now I'm being blamed of a missing person, because the text messages that I received said that at 6:30 a.m. my name will be taken over to the police, and I will be rightfully accused of a missing person. And you know what that would do to my life, my career, my future, my family? To always, like, imagine if something actually did happen to her. She's good. She just made a poor choice in deciding what to do with her free time. But that's her own choice. But the problem is, I was the epicenter of why she didn't return home in my car with, and she's an older person. She's 22, 23 years old. But at the same token, her pet, her dog, her companion was left alone. He was crying all night, woke all of us up. But if the situation were worse, where she actually an incident had happened to her, I will be that person sitting in courtroom after courtroom, interrogation after interrogation, of trying to express to people I had nothing to do with her disappearance. And then I would actually break down and cry because I will be upset and frustrated that I didn't do this. I had nothing to do with it. But how can you justify you didn't do anything when the world is being taught and driven to blame every man for every situation that has to do with a female? That's the narrative, if you guys don't know what's going on. Imagine if you had cop cars following you everywhere, helicopters over you, tracing your car as the helicopter's flying over my car, because you are alleged suspect of something. So, to those people who were offended on Facebook this earlier today with what I posted, I apologize that you took my post to the self-reflection that you have against the world right now, and you're Trump upset too, so you're letting it out on me, which is fine. I'm a friend. But at the same token, understand I go through things also. I was also assaulted at 17 years old. I didn't have a choice. I couldn't tell anybody. I couldn't tell my own family. I was a man in the closet who just had a sexual situation happen to him, and he couldn't tell anybody until he was mature enough to share that someone had attacked him and took advantage of him, and I forced myself to say no. I fought back, and then I surrendered, and I couldn't even go to the authorities. So if I knew this person were like a major celebrity 10 years from now, and I knew how to sabotage and destroy his career because of what he did to me, that's from my viewpoint of being the victim and survivor. But I'm no longer a victim anymore. I'm a conqueror. I've always said this. I would not accuse him of anything from the point that it happened. Why? A, we should never live to think that we need to get back at somebody. Revenge does not balance clarity. If you think that you're trying to justify and clarify a situation, it's best to walk with your head up high and be freaking successful in what you do. And that person, I don't know, if the person's relevant in your life and constant in your life, then that's a decision that you made to be in that person's life multiple times. I'm sorry to go there, but it needs to be a conversation. We cannot be walking around thinking that, oh, well, I'll just get back at this person when I feel like it because they deserve it. They did wrong. They're a horrible person. They're evil. And when you hold that animosity over time, or you were fine in your life, things were fine and dandy, and then you wanted to release it at the moment of thinking that you were going to rip someone's life apart, you got to question your morale. Question yourself, question everything. Why are you behaving this way? And why can't you let it go? It's really a matter of the self and what the self is going through. And how can you alleviate yourself of that heartache and pain? What can you do to always be a better person for yourself? That's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. It's becoming hard to have dialogue these days with people, especially when you're someone like me who everyone falls in love with instantly. But I have to be one of those people to say what is the truth. Even if I disagree with what I'm saying, I still understand the history and background of what I'm saying has a greater truth. And there's a helicopter over me, assuming that I'm doing something wrong. So I gotta cut my video short. Thank you guys so much for listening to my video. There's a helicopter over me. That's the joy of always being under surveillance by, and that's also too a testament of people who assume the wrong thing and then they make a phone call because they're suspicious about something. Now the wrong thing. Yep, that's all I'm saying. It's hard to justify that you're not up to anything. Can't I just park my car and walk home? A lot of people, in my perspective, they're well off, or they have some decent situations. They have a beautiful partner. They might own property. They work full time, or they're at home with family. That siren's not for me, by the way. One thing that I was just concerned about was, here's the truth. When my car is en route and I stop, my car has been tagged and being traced because I don't know who, when, and what, but someone had said something. And ever since that day that someone said something accusing me of what they don't know about me, and I went to authorities, I went to security to justify that there's nothing to worry about, yet still I'm followed everywhere I go. And I have, sometimes when I go to one of my locations for work, a drone follows me from my parking spot on the street to the location because I chose not to park in the structure security was. The security of that situation is the reason why I have been surveillanced for almost a year now. So how do you guys feel that somebody who's wise and outspoken is now in a victim situation? But I choose not to be a victim. I choose to keep some normalcy in my life. I choose to be wise and knowledgeable about life. I choose to love. I choose compassion. I choose to forgive. And some people hate that. They hate that I'm so forgiving and open and I'm so understanding. That's not my problem. If you think that you can stick it to someone because you have the entitlement to justify a situation, that's a self-reflection on yourself. Notice the helicopter went away. Anyways, I'm just sharing that perspective with everybody. And have a wonderful night. I will talk to you later. Let's keep the conversation going. Bye.